McMullen, McDonald, and look who's here. Are we cutting into a meal there? It looked like you were chewing. You got gum working this morning or something? All right, don't. If you need to get a snack, go ahead, and we'll wait for you. No, we just pimping Mike Gill. All right, Mike Gill with the red, donning the red today. Pan down there, brother. What are you wearing?
This is my friends over at the Sandboners. Sending me
where? Can you repeat that, please?
The Sandboners. They're a bunch of sandwich aficionados.
That's Colin Thompson's involved in that, isn't he?
One of Colin Thompson's shows that the gentleman they go around eating sandwiches all over Philadelphia and Jersey.
I would just generally speaking. Now this is going to be the second day in a row because yesterday John accused me of attacking Les Bowen, and I didn't. I attacked the word John. I'm not attacking.
You attack Les.
I did not.
Go ahead.
I did not. I'm not attacking Colin Thompson or that establishment, but just generally speaking, I would keep the word boner out of my name if I wanted to ever sell any accoutrement to a female potential buyer. That's just me. As it's the same thing again. Jody, overreactive McDonald, can't stand the word John. Doesn't want to use the word boner in a restaurant name. Yeah. All right, fine. I'm sorry.
I'm just mad. Colin's giving out swag, and I didn't get it. He's getting a text.
Well, I'm a guest on the show every.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. All right.
But by the way, I don't know. I have the bathrooms, guys. They're remodeling my bathroom, so my normal sitting area, there's a lot of noise. So I'm like standing up in a corner over here. So I don't know if you can hear them, but.
No, we hear you, which is good. That's why we bring you on, is to hear.
There we go.
So we not 100% sure on the boner red shirt. All right, we'll move on. I
should have wore the gray one.
Gray. You have multiple choices? Oh, now McMullen's really pissed that you've got dueling shirts and he has.
No, well, Mike goes on the show. That's understandable now. Okay. I don't go on the Sam Boner.
I'm a permanent third chair on that show.
There we go. See, now it makes sense.
Good job. Have you reached the level of panic? Because John and I established first segment of the show today. There's a percentage of the Eagle fan base that's ready to change the coach, change the coordinators. I got changed the quarterback last night, which just made me almost nuts. I get it. It's people in general in life and certainly in sports overreact to short-term things. How bad is this? Is it just the fringe few that are idiotic? Or do you think there is actually some legit numbers in rumbling that are overreacting?
Well, I don't think it's a legit few. I do think there is a large portion of the fan base that is hitting the panic button here. I think it's human nature to see two back-to-back games not go the way that you hope or anticipate it, and then reformulate your opinion. I'd like to get a little bit more than a 2-game sample size to make me change the way that I view something. Do I think they played well? No. Do I think that they didn't play well because the two teams they played were better than them? I think on those 2 days, it's clear that they were the better football teams. I talk about this a lot for the people watching. I talked about this yesterday. Miami beat Denver 70-20 by 50. Yeah. If Denver and Miami played this week, are you positive that Miami wins that game against Denver? Probably not. I mean, Denver's a pretty good team since that game. In fact, they lost by 50 in that game and then won the very next week. The margin of victory, I think, is something that fans get so overblown about. It doesn't matter if you lose 48-3 or 3-0 in the event of the Raiders. That game is done and over with. It's now, how do you move on and learn from these two losses? Look, I don't want to make excuses about the schedule, but those two games were not in the most ideal spot in the schedule. You got two teams getting 10 days rest, two teams who are right there with you. You give them a little bit of an advantage of 3 extra days to sit and watch you, you're going to get some exposure there. And I think we saw at a stage of the season where they both had 11 and 12 weeks to watch, and they had some extra rest. the Eagles fumbling 3 times didn't help that situation. What happened with those 3 drives, which were all the one was at the 49, the other 2 were on the Dallas side of
The
the
one
field.
that DeMonte usually catches that ball, that's a touchdown. The other one, AJ's at the 3-yard line or the 2-yard line. You know, maybe they don't punch it in, but it's certainly 3 points. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think that they
So
won the game. I think Dallas was the better team,
that
but
game is yeah, those games are the Dallas game specifically. There's a handful of plays that game turns on that just get away from you, and then you look at the score and it's like, well, Dallas just kicked your ass. Yeah, they did, because you fumbled 3 times, you dropped. I mean, the throw that he makes to Smith in the back of the end, or where Smith's kind of waving for it, he makes that catch. I don't know that I've ever seen him not make that throw
I
and
know.
catch. And
That's
you're
what
like,
I
what?
said.
Those 2 guys, Brown and Smith, looked so disinterested. Smith looked like he had saw a ghost or something. Like somebody told him, hey, something before the game that just rattled him, and that he
Well, he
wanted
did
no
get
part of
whacked
that game.
pretty hard early in the game, if you remember. I think they might have put something in Devontae's mind. That's just they really hit him hard early in the game. He always catches that pass. Always.
And Brown seemed like the whole thing with him and Gilmore just got, it just consumed him so much that he was so out of the game. He didn't have a terrible game, by the way. 9 for 96 is a pretty good day at the office. But yeah, so no, I'm not ready to hit the panic button after a 2-game sample size. Now, I had an interesting text to my show yesterday, which was, this team has not played a complete game the entire season. Is that game coming, or is this version of the Eagles essentially who they are?
Yeah, I'm much more concerned about the San Francisco game than the Dallas game for the reasons you mentioned, Mike. There were a handful of plays that the Eagles just, crapped the bed on, where San Francisco just beat them. I mean, they just beat them soundly. So a little bit more concerned with the potential matchup down the line with the 49ers. I think Eagles-Cowboys, bottom line, if it's here, the Eagles probably win. If it's there, Dallas probably wins. That's how close those 2 teams are. And I think they'll certainly battle back and forth. The Eagles have the easier schedule down the stretch than Dallas. But to talk about, you mentioned those are 2 great players, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They both dropped big passes that could have resulted in points, and they both fumbled uncharacteristically. Although AJ almost fumbled in that, I think, Bills game as well. So he might be pressing a little bit. Why? There are certain players, and it's very nebulous, and you see it by addition of Slay and Bradbury, who were former stars that are now getting shat upon a bit by some of the fan base. So it can change overnight. But boy, people dive on their swords for the players. And the coaches, it's like Brian Johnson's got to fix that. Well, what has he got to call a play where they don't fumble? Does he got to call a play where they catch the football? Is that good play calling? What's good play calling, Mike Gill?
The coach criticism is always, to me, the byproduct of the fan believes that they have enough knowledge to take that job. They are not good enough to be the wide receiver. So therefore, since I could tell you what play to run in their mind, therefore, I am qualified to tell the coaches it's not good enough. I'm not qualified to make that catch. I'm not qualified to get open, but I am qualified in their mind to be the play caller or to decide whether you should run and or pass. Brian Johnson, look, let's go back to, I heard you guys before I came on. Frank Reich, there was questions on whether he even called the plays while he was here. Now they want him to come in after being fired twice to take over play calling.
He didn't call
Shane
the plays,
Steichen, he was the play caller here the first year with Jalen Hurts. That didn't go so well. People were like, what the heck is this offense? Well, then the next year, he kind of grew into that position. Brian Johnson has done a pretty good job. They got a top 5 offense in the league. You can't just cut the cord on these guys after 10 games and say they aren't good at their job and just move on and then keep recycling a guy. And then 8 games into that guy's tenure say, well, he's not any good either. The next guy comes in. Sirianni was a play caller here. People didn't like him. Now you wanted to take the play calling back. Like, let somebody grow into these jobs so that they can become a Shane Steichen. Steichen wasn't great.
By the way, to your point, Mike, I thought that was a good point. But you bring up the fans know they can't do what AJ Devontae does. But shouldn't that identify which part of the equation is also more important? It's always talent first. It's always the players first. The coaches aren't just magic, fairy dust, making bad players into good players. You got to have really, really talented players. And if your really talented players don't perform on a particular game day, you're probably going to lose, no matter what the coaches do. Shouldn't that exemplify that?
This is I think it's also the byproduct of when the coach gets up on the, post-game presser and says, the old Andy Reid, we need to do a better job. We got to coach them up. We got to go watch the film. You're telling the fans that, hey, this is on us. They're saying, you told it's on you. We're putting it on you.
That's true.
There is a little bit of the coaches do like to take the blame for why things don't go well. And look, they're not absolved. You talk to anybody. Colin Thompson does my show on Tuesdays. He played in the league. And I asked him yesterday, what do you see of this team? Well, they got to go coach them up a little bit different and do this. So I think the players also, in their mind, sometimes when things aren't going well, they default to the coaching. What are we hearing right now about what's going on out there? Well, some players don't think they think it's too predictable out there. So there is some element that the coaches, like football coaches, do have a larger role. I think the basketball coach gets blamed way too much. The baseball manager gets blamed way too much. The football coach calls every single play. They have a hand in every play that gets called. So there is some element of them, but I do think that it's ridiculous that when things – now, that being said, it is preposterous. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, you're freezing up on it.
Freezing up a bit.
Preposterous. What is preposterous? I hope I know what he meant by preposterous before he got dropped. What were you saying was preposterous? No.
You got a little bit of a lag.
Oh, I said it's preposterous that a offense with this talent can't score. So there is some blame to go around somewhere, I would imagine. Yeah. Who gets the bulk of the blame for a team with this talent that can't score?
All right, speaking of preposterous, and I know we got to get to the defense because, truth be told, that's a bigger issue than the offense right now. But I got one more offensive question. 6 games, 9 targets, 7 catches, 49 yards. That's Quez Watkins. Yet the coach prior to the season tried to tell us how great Quez Watkins was and how hard he was working. And if you're looking for somebody to have a bust-out year, look right at Quez. And we had Quez step up and go, yeah, I need to be elite this year. His choice of words, not mine, Quez's own, elite this year. Do I need to give you the stats again? 9 targets, 7 catches, 7 yards a catch. What happened to the elite Quez Watkins, a.k.a. as per the head coach and the player himself?
Well, he was hurt for a little while there, but I will say yesterday, Sirianni was asked about the receiver
I gave you
targets.
7 games.
Oh, listen, if he played every game, yeah, his stats aren't going to look great. But I'm saying he did miss a big chunk of the season, and then getting him back involved. But that being said, Sirianni gave you the answer yesterday. Our offense runs through those 3 guys. He didn't need to be any more clear. They're the 3 guys that are going to get it all the target.
Yeah, so, he said that 100 times.
So when he was asked about it in preseason, and he said, if you're looking for a guy to step up and prove and be better, you look right at Quez Watkins. So that was complete and utter bullshit. That he knew that as soon as the season started, we're going to throw it to AJ, we're going to throw it to Devontae, we're going to throw it to the other guys are out there for just window dressing. When is he lying to me, then or now?
Yeah, just like he told
Neither,
you Trey
I would
Sermon
say.
was
Yeah. He's trying to boost the
the run.
confidence of a player that struggled last year. We're
Just
getting lag from Mike. Can we try to bring Mike down and try to bring him up, see if it helps Sander? Yeah, I would say neither. He's not lying to you either. He's trying to buoy the confidence of a player that was struggling and a player, getting a lot of criticism. But he has said consistently, both in front of the cameras, and he did it again yesterday, as Mike pointed out, and behind the cameras. Our offense runs through A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. It is Shane. Originally, it was A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. Now Devontae has jumped ahead of Dallas. But it's the same three guys. He said it 100 times if he said it once. He said it again yesterday. Everybody was fine with it when they were 10-1. Now everybody's not fine with it when they're 10-3. But they will continue to run the passing offense, those three guys. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's
So
their
now
offense.
my question to you, John, because we brought it up
Yeah,
here
this is like
yesterday. They didn't target another player all game. Is that acceptable because the head coach says
No.
so? We just
No.
target these three guys. If you expect anything else, you're whistling in the wind. We're not going to do that. We're going to throw it to the three stars we have. And the other guys are out there for, can't really tell you what reason is, but I guess you got to field 11 players. So is it or isn't it acceptable that they just have these three guys that they throw the ball to, that the offense runs through?
Mike? Do we have Mike?
Now I was asking you, John.
Well, I want to get.
I think if I'm still here, by the way, my signal strength is strong, so I don't know what's going on if it's on my end or not. But that being said, is it acceptable? No, not if your offense is. Look, I said it the other day when A.J. Brown had 125 yards a game for 6 straight games. Somebody said to me, "Well, the offense is pedestrian. They don't have motion." I said he had 125 yards for 6 straight games. Nobody's complaining. We start to complain when things start to come to happen here. The thing is, they have to now figure out why is it happen. You were getting 125 yards a game. No one's complaining. Now we're saying, why don't they throw the ball to Quez Watkins? Who the hell cares about Quez Watkins? Get the ball back to A.J. Brown and let him get 125 yards a game, and I think things will start to get better. The question is, why is Brown not being a bigger part of the offense? Why is Smith fumbling the ball? Not why is Quez Watkins not a part of the offense. He wasn't a part of the offense today, yesterday, the day before, last year, or at any point of his Eagles career. It's not a Quez Watkins problem right now. This is the basic fundamentals of this offense, that they can't get the ball to, by the way, 2 guys who had over 1,000 yards, a tight end who had on pace for 1,000 yards. If they can't the ball with those 3, there's a lot of teams out there saying, we have nowhere near what you have, and we don't have a problem moving the ball. What's your excuse? So what's the it's not Quez Watkins isn't the problem of this offense.
Then maybe I got to think about Quez. Never mentioned a running back. Coach, do you not plan on running the ball the rest of the year since the offense runs through AJ, Devontae, Goddard? Go.
He meant to be fair, he meant the passing offense, but if you don't make things clear, people can take it in different directions. So he probably wants to make that more clear, but he meant the passing offense. He said it 100 times. That's why I can say that. But as far as not distributing the football to around a little bit more. And you were the one who brought this up, and correctly so, yesterday, because I think that was a big problem in Dallas on 1 week. I think it was a big problem. You can't just throw it to 3 guys in an NFL game. And I brought up all the other games about even rookie quarterbacks distributing the ball to 7, 8 different players.
9 different guys who get targeted.
And you went back to the San Francisco game where they got waxed, and they threw it to 4, 5, 6, 7 players. So that was an anomaly on 1 week in Dallas, and that's unacceptable. You can't go through a game and not get anybody else involved. But that brings me, guys, to the quarterback. And Dan, I don't know if you saw it, Mike. I don't know if you saw it, Jody, but Dan Orlovsky did a great breakdown of 3 different plays, which people killing the head coach or the offensive coordinator. And this is a former quarterback telling you the progression. So I always tell fans, film is great, but make sure you trust the guy telling you what the film is. This is a former NFL quarterback that understands progressions. As Mike goes through the house, gives us a little bit of tour. Hopefully, he gets back.
He's got his own progression going.
Yeah,
I'm trusting Gill with his progressions here.
Trusting him with his progression. So Dan, everybody should go look at it. Dan did a great job. I retweeted it. You can go to my X account, Twitter account, whatever you want to do. And clearly he points out the progression, where the ball's got to go. This is progression 1, progression 2, progression 3. In all 3 instances, Jalen Hurts had an open receiver. One time it was Devontae. One time it was Dallas. One time it was AJ. The 3 big guys didn't throw the ball. Didn't throw it. Didn't come out. The quarterback is having issues right now, Mike and Jody. And for whatever reason, things are muddy to him right now. Maybe it's the opposition, but it's a concern, and Dan put it out there for everybody to see.
So we should be listening to David Carr, and they should be trying to.
No. Well, there's a big difference between you missed a progression and you should be benched for Marcus Mariota. Right. There's like I said, it's okay to criticize players in the moment, but there are certain players the fan base tries to protect, and they want to blame the failings of the quarterback on the offensive coordinator. What you saw and what Dan laid out, these plays are working. If the ball goes in the right direction, there are open receivers.
Yes.
Now,
I contended last week that David Carr's thing got blown out of proportion. I don't think he articulated very well. What I think he was trying to say was, if Hurts is not healthy, you're not winning. Like, you're not winning the Super Bowl with this version of Jalen Hurts. So maybe let him sit down and get himself back to 100% so that you have the best version of him. Because the version you have now, not going to be good enough. That doesn't mean Mariota's the better player. I think he was looking at the big picture saying, if you really want to win a Super Bowl, you need your best version of Jalen Hurts. And the one you have right now is not it. Now,
let me ask both of you guys, and you first, Mike. John just pointed out, Dan Orlovsky pointed out, going through 3 particular plays, and you can do that with basically any game. When it's over and done with, find the 3 plays where the quarterback was a little tentative in getting the ball out to make a point. I like Orlovsky. I think he's very good. But I'm not going to put a ton of stock in that because he went through the entire game film. He found the 3 plays that fit his narrative, and those are the ones they show on television. But even the fact that there were 3 means there's something there. How much we could debate here. What do you do? Do you really give any thought process that could Carr be right that Jalen needs to sit? Is the knee the reason he's not pulling the trigger? Is it that he's lost confidence in he continues to listen to Sirianni go up there and go, we throw to 3 guys, and they're the only 3 guys, and it's Goddard, it's AJ, and that's what our passing offense runs to. Is Jalen hearing going now? Yeah, I'm not throwing it to a running back because coach doesn't want me throwing it to a running back. What's the fix? How do you get around it? If we acknowledge that Jalen's not pulling the trigger the way he did last year as an MVP candidate, how do you get him to do it again?
That's a fair question as to why is this happening then? If there are plays to be made, why is he not pulling the trigger? And then how do you get him to do it? My biggest problem with Hurts right now would be I think it's clear and obvious that their running game stinks because they don't have a running game. They're not running anything. They're running the same thing with the quarterback being no threat to run. So when the quarterback's no threat to run, these ends and linebackers, they're just crashing the running back and blowing these plays up in the backfield, where before they had to stop and read, what is Hurts going to do? They have no thought that Hurts is going to keep the ball. The only play they run with him is they'll run that quarterback delay drive right up the left side or right side and have him do it where he fumbled. But as far as their run game with the RPO, he is not involved in that at all. And I think that has teams saying there's a whole element of your offense that used to keep us off, you keep us off balance. That is no longer there. So you're going to have to – now, you can make the argument, Jody, that their offense is pretty basic, but that's fine if you have that element to the offense that says When things aren't going well, we can add this. And then when you think you have that, we can go back to because we have 3 really stud players. So bang, bang, bang. But if this element of the game, the running attack, is out, now your basic passing game is becoming a little bit more the thing you lean on. And if you're going to lean on that as much as they do, it's got to be a little bit more creative.
Diverse. Agreed.
Yeah, and to your point, Mike, about David Carr, you're right, and we brought up the context. He was talking about the injury as well, but who does that? It's week 15 in the NFL. Every quarterback's banged up. Your quarterbacks play through it. Sometimes it's an issue with their knees. Sometimes it's an issue. Geno Smith had been playing through a host of injuries until last week, wasn't able to go. Maybe he goes this week. Maybe he doesn't. He's got a groin. He's got an elbow. Guys play through this. You don't bench quarterbacks because they have something, the old adage in the NFL, are you injured or are you hurt? Right. Jalen Hurts is hurt, and he's got to play through it because he's the number 1 quarterback. So how does he get back to where he's effective enough to get the Eagles over the hump against good football teams? That's the question. You're not going to bench him to get him healthy. That nobody does that. So I still think David Carr deserves criticism for throwing that hot take out there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the context wasn't there for a lot of people. I would just say about Jalen, and Jody's right as well, my only point was the progressions, because I go back to it's all together. The play calls. I say it to you, Mike. I say it to you, Jody, all the time. Nobody judges play calls. They judge play results.
Yep.
They don't know what the play call is. So they can say this is a bad play call. What I was trying to turn people to Dan is because he's showing you the progression. He's showing you, okay, this is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. From an NFL quarterback's eyes, he knows where the football's got to go. This guy's not open. Got to go here. Got to go here.
Can I jump in for a second, John? If it's that easy for Dan Orlovsky in his studio in Bristol, Connecticut, why can't the defense figure it out? If it's that easy to just be able to tell by the way they line up and the first 2 steps a receiver takes, he's the first progression. He's the guy. The defense can't do that too.
No, not in the first 2 steps. No, I mean that the offense has defense is reactionary. Now, a defensive coach can put it on the film and tell you right away after the play what they're trying to do. Any NFL defensive coach, they can figure it out. That's why, I kind of chuckle at when you always have that question about a player going to a new team who was on an old team, helping out the defensive coach. No, they look at the film and they know before the stinking player of what's going on. But when things are coming at you 100 miles an hour, no, you can't judge right away what the progression is. The quarterback better damn well know what the progression is.
Orlovsky's doing 20/20 hindsight is what you're saying. He's not figuring out as it goes.
No, well, the quarterback knows the progression of a particular play. The quarterback has to know the progression of every single play that is run during the game. And when a guy is open, that's the more difficult part. When it's progression 2 instead of progression 1, you got to get to that quickly and make the decision, or you got to move on. So it's very difficult to do, but understanding the progression part of it is impossible for me, Jody McDonald, Mike Gill, fans who think they know where the football's supposed to go. The Jack Stoll play. I still get the Jack Stoll play every day. Nick just told you. Dan just told you. These are the progressions. Progression number 1 in Nick Sirianni's offense is never going to be Jack Stoll. I shouldn't say never. You never know what happens. Injuries 99% of the time. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, ball's got to go to Jack Stoll. No. That's probably not the number one progression. You can
Well,
feel
it's also
very
part of the reason why they don't throw the ball to the running back. We talked about this in the offseason when they got Swift. Swift catches the ball so much. The problem is they don't throw the ball to the running back. Why? Because he's the fifth guy on the progression. So I'm looking at Brown, I'm looking at Smith, I'm looking at Goddard. By the time that happens, I'm taking off and running. So I don't have the chance to throw the ball, dump it off to the running back. And that's why the running backs in this offense don't get the amount of touches they really should in the pass game. I mean, for DeAndre Swift to come here and not be a big part of the passing attack, you draft Kenny Gainwell, who played wide receiver in college, and then make him a pass blocker and not throw him the ball at all is kind of a malpractice.
All right, I'm flipping it over to the defense. We've talked solely the offense so far. And oh, by the way, the defense has stunk 2 weeks in a row. 6 straight touchdowns for San Francisco, right down the field by the Cowboys. They never get them to punt. Ridiculous. So I need to ask you a defensive question. And I'm going down my hypothetical route because of a call I took last night on my show on WIP. Mike Gill, second play of the game this Sunday. Hassan Reddick turns an ankle. He's out. They got to take him back to the locker room. Can't play.
Oh, boy.
Done for the day.
Trying to scare people.
Yeah, I am. Sorry about that. Who are they putting at defensive end? They got Nolan Smith out there last week for more plays than usual. Usually the 10 to 12 guy. He actually played 20. In case you didn't see the PFF grades, second worst player on the Philadelphia Eagles, Nolan Smith. So maybe they know something. He's just not ready to play yet. Shame on them for using the 30th pick on a draft on a guy who's not ready to play 13 weeks into the season, but the facts are the facts. Which of the defensive tackles would you move outside to get some snaps? Do the Eagles have a guy in their defensive tackle rotation where they're certainly deeper than defensive end right now that you would move outside to maybe give you a couple snaps? I know they probably haven't cross-trained anybody at that this year, but if you had to do it in an emergency, who would you move outside out of the DTs?
I mean, you might see more of an alignment with Fletcher, Jalen, Carter, I guess, would probably get bumped out there and play Jordan Davis, Fletcher, and Jalen all at the same time. You might get more Milton Williams, who, is a guy that has the shorter arms, but maybe a little quicker, that would get some snaps on the outside. You probably just would get a bulk load more of Brandon Graham. I mean, that would be a horrendous situation. I will say this. You flip it over to the other side of the ball. Josh Swift had a rough day at the office against Trent Williams over there, which a lot of people do. But, it shows you how important Reddick is, that if he gets no pass rush, you can't. The games that they have lost is because their front 4 or 5 or whatever they got up there is not winning their battles. And the games they had some troubles in, the Washington game, that was a game you were like, wow, they didn't get enough pressure. When they don't get pressure, they got big problems. And if you took Reddick off the field, this would be a really bad defense because the pressure
got it right.
is just not consistent enough.
The answer is Milt Williams.
Yeah, Milton. And by the way, Jody, Milton's done it. Fletcher's done it. Jalen's done it. So they have a bunch of guys that can do it. But it'd be nice to get Nolan Smith involved. I would say.
What do you guys? They made it. When I was watching the game, I think Tirico at one point they were highlighting Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham about how long they've been there. But the thing that stood out to me that makes you kind of say, a 34-year-old and 35-year-old Brandon Graham still getting it done, and you're thinking, if you're relying on 34 and 35-year-old guys, and they are 2 of your keys, I don't know how much legs you might just have a team that's starting to hit the empty part of the gas tank. I mean, you look at Julio Jones and say, my man's got nothing left in the tank. The Eagles are relying on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of guys who are at that 30-year-old, and they used to have that rule. If you were 30, you were done. They cut you. They brought back Fletcher. They brought Graham. They signed, Byard. They trade for Byard. They brought Bradbury back. I mean, you're starting to see guys. You wonder if this stage of the season, was it you, John, that maybe said they could have relied on some younger players that by this time of the season. But the comment that Tirico made about Fletcher and Brandon and how much they play and how important they are kind of tells the story to me why that defense is leaking oil. Because this defense was pretty solid earlier in the year. They were very good run defense, and now all of a sudden they can't stop the run and they can't stop a nosebleed in the secondary. And you look around and say, man, there's a lot of older guys out there. They haven't found a young corner that can play. The linebacking situation, you just keep plugging holes. You keep trying to find a guy off the street, and then you're relying on some older guys up front.
Yeah, that's fair. And especially when you talk about how many snaps the defense has had over the past month, because they can't get off the field, because the Eagles can't convert on third downs enough offensively. Bunch of things factor into it. But these guys have been taking a hell of a lot of snaps, Mike. At Mike Gill Show, 97.3 ESPN South Jersey. Make sure you listen to Sports Bash today, 2 to 6. I'll end it here with you. The big Duke, West Virginia, is it the Mayo Bowl? I don't know what it's called. In Charlotte.
The Duke Mayo Bowl.
The Duke Mayo. Is it the Duke? Now, Duke's in the game.
No, North Carolina is in the game.
Oh, it's North Carolina. So I screwed it up by saying Duke Mayo Bowl.
It's the Duke's Mayo Bowl, but Duke is not
with
in the
an
game.
apostrophe S. Okay,
All right.
gotcha.
All right. What your West Virginia team? How many people are in the transfer portal? How many people are going to show up that played the season for West Virginia?
I don't know about that. I do know that they're playing North Carolina, and is his name Duke May? Is that
Drake
his
May?
name?
Yeah, he
Drake
ain't
May.
playing.
Drake
He
May.
ain't
Sorry.
playing. I don't even know, but I guarantee he's not playing.
No, he is not playing in the game. So it's funny you mentioned this, because I'm on vacation from work the last 2 weeks of the year. I'm out of here. So I was looking for some things to do, and I might go to Charlotte to the Duke's Mayo Bowl to go check it out. But I have no idea. West Virginia has not the portal situation there, I have not read a lot about who's there, who's not.
Everybody,
but I know that if you're a quarterback, you essentially play for every team in the country you can find.
Right.
I mean,
till they say you used up your availability, you're done.
You used up your 8 years of
Come on, you got to
eligibility.
stop now. You can't be still transferring at this age.
Every guy in the Heisman, the finalists, they all were transfers. They all were in the portal. Every guy that was in at least 3 of them had transferred at some point. You've already got the kid going from Duke, by the way, to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has now hit. Last year they had Hartman from Wake Forest, and now they're getting Riley.
And by the way, he looks like he's older. Sam Hartman looks like, I said this to Jody, looks like he's older than 3/4 of the NFL quarterbacks. He's played 7 seasons in college, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah, the only guy who hadn't transferred at the Heisman was that Harrison Jr. kid. He's a bit of a player, and he stuck it out at Ohio State. The question is where he's going to land in the NFL. Mike Gill, we appreciate your bonus shirt. Thank you very much for coming on with us today. We will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. See you.
That's my
See ya.
Be bopping around the house. Got to get made for effort.
Yeah, man. He went through the progression seamlessly.
Oh,
Got to where the Wi-Fi was better in the Casa de Gill. Yeah. Well, good job by Mike.
Some people have questioned the Eagles' effort the last 2 weeks. I think they've given every effort they had. I think the opposite is worse. If they are giving effort and they're just not good enough, that's what I kind of see. And that should be even, if you don't believe me.
I don't get
how do you
not
like Gill's
thing.
effort? He was making every effort to give us the best broadcast possible.
I'm with you I don't get the non-effort thing. I didn't see that at all. I don't know what people say.
That wasn't what I saw when I watched both of those 2 games. All right, McDonald and McMullen back to back. Quickie time out here on Birds 365. We're doubling down on the West Virginia input today. Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Board is going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes. But I got a very important running game question to run by John McMullen when we come back. Keep it here on Birds 365.